Different types of gears you have learned. Spur gear, helical. Can you name the gears? Gears that you have learned?
Helical gear, worm and worm gear, rack
Yes.
and pinion.
Rack and pinion. Okay, good. So these are the different types of gears that you have learned. Apart from that, you have learned what else you have learned in the last class?
Sir, worm gear.
Yeah, different types of gears. Anything else?
Advantages,
Yeah,
advantages of
fine.
gear.
About the gear drive limitations, advantages, features of mainly about gear drive you have learned. So today we will start off with the nomenclature of spur gears. So spur gear is not just simply randomly you won't get a gear. You have to design it, and there is some mathematics behind design of spur gears, and there are different profiles of spur gears. Depending upon the design, you have nomenclature of spur gears, different names for different elements in it. If you see the spur gear here, can you see the spur gear sketch here?
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
Sir, sorry I joined a bit late. Sir,
Hmm.
is this diagram to be remembered for the exams?
Yes. Why do you ask that?
Sir, because it looks very complicated. I would have to work on it.
No. It looks complicated, but it is not. There are more complicated sketches in mechanical engineering than this. Right. So since you are
Okay.
in first year, you are finding it difficult, but if you understand the what it is, it will be easy for you. Right. We have a machine drawing in third semester, wherein you are asked to draw cross-section of machine components. Think about that.
Yes, sir. I am in electrical.
Uh,
That's why.
no, you are an engineer, right? You are capable of doing all these things, right?
Yes, sir.
You have passed the entrance exams and you have come here. It means you are capable, right? Only thing is that you haven't done it. To do. You should be confident of doing it.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yes. Yeah. If you can draw the you see the one profile of the Spurgear tooth here. This profile we call it as involute profile. In it's a curve in mathematics. Call that curve as involute, right? So it's a separate field, separate design area wherein you using mathematics you design the profiles. This particular profile of Spurgear we call it as involute. Right. Right now we will not get into the mathematics of how to get involute profile, but whatever profile that you see here, it is called as involute. The Spurgear curve that is used here, this curve is called an involute curve or involute profile. And you can see two teeth here, one teeth, another tooth. Right. Let us see the different elements of it. For example, this entire thing, entire outer diameter. This is called as outer diameter, right? So this is the gear drive teeth you have. Whatever you see in blue is called as outer diameter circle, or it is also called as addendum circle. And working depth. When another teeth comes in contact, see two gears have to mesh, right? One gear has to mesh with another gear. So from opposite direction, if another gear has to come and mesh, it will not touch this base. It will not touch this base. It will leave some clearance. So the working depth is only this much from here till here. The remaining part is clearance. Remaining part is clearance. The total whole depth, it is composed of addendum and dedendum. Right. Before that, you should know what is a pitch circle. Let us understand what a pitch circle is. Right. So we'll see what a pitch circle is. Where do you think if another gear comes and meets, if another teeth of another gear, drive one is driver, one is driven, we know that. So two at a time you should have the teeth meeting each other, right? So another gear tooth will come and meet at the this particular point, right? Let us consider this point as A. So if there is one gear here like this, another gear should come and meet. The point where it meets is called as pitch point, and all the points when it is connected, like a locus, we call it as a pitch circle. It's a locus of points where two teeth meet while meshing. We call it as pitch circle. Right. When two gears actually mesh each other, their outer diameters do not meet. Their inner diameter, what we call the dedendum circle, they do not meet. They meet at the pitch circle. Right. Remember this much. When two spur gears meet each other, actually, what is touching each other? The pitch circle of each gears are touching each other, right, going tangent to each other. Their outer diameter is not meeting, their inner diameters are not meeting, but the pitch circle is actually meeting. Right? So that is the concept of pitch circle. So then you have fillet radius, for example, this radius, fillet radius. Here you have the fillet. This portion is called top line. This is called as face. This is called as flank. Different names. So very important here is the concept of pitch circle. What is a pitch? What is a pitch circle? So pitch circle you have learned. Pitch means if you take one point here, the distance between this corresponding point on the next tooth, we call it as pitch. So what is pitch here? It is like the pitch in your thread. If you take one point here, consider one point here, the distance from this point to the corresponding point on the next tooth, we call it as pitch. So here this is the pitch. This is the pitch. This is called as pitch. And pitch always is measured on the pitch circle. Why this pitch is important? What do you think? If two gears have to mesh, there is a condition that the pitch of both gears should be equal. If two gears has to mesh with each other, pitch of two teeth has to be same. First thing you should know that two gears meet at the pitch circle. Second, two gears, if they want to mesh, then their pitch should be same. Clear? Okay. You make a note of this particular sketch. You roughly with just your pencil or in your observation book, you just make a note of it. If you have any doubt, you can ask. So pitch is shown here, circular pitch is shown here, the pitch circle is shown here, right? Addendum, dedendum, all these are self-explanatory. Only you need to be more conceptual while explaining the pitch. And once you explain what is pitch circle, then you can explain what is addendum, what is dedendum, what is working depth, hold depth, etc. Any doubt here? Hello.
No, sir.
Yeah. So let us just revise once again, one by one. Let us see what we have learned here. First is pitch circle. What is a pitch circle? Two gears, when they meet each other, they meet at a particular point on any two gear teeth. If you join all those points together, you get circular, you get the pitch circle. The distance that you measure from one point on a tooth to the corresponding point on the next tooth, we call it a circular pitch. Right. So pitch circle is done, circular pitch is done. Next, thickness you have. Tooth thickness. Tooth thickness is always measured on the pitch circle. So tooth thickness is always measured on the pitch circle. You cannot measure here. You cannot measure here. Why? Because pitch circle represent the gear, right? Two gears meet each other at the pitch circle. So that makes sense. So toe thickness is defined at the pitch circle. And then addendum. What is addendum? From outer diameter to the pitch circle, whatever distance you have, it is called as addendum. From the pitch circle to the base, to the bottom land, whatever distance you have is called as dedendum. Whole depth, that is equal to addendum plus dedendum. What is working depth? Working depth is whole depth minus clearance, minus clearance, minus clearance. This one. Next, you have fillet radius. Why this fillet is given? Why this fillet is required? Why not have sharp edges? Basic essence in design. Why not sharp edges? Why a fillet like this? Why do you think fillet is required? Such a curve that you have, if you have a sharp corner like this, if you cut a profile like this, if you have a profile like this, we call it as fillet, and it has got a radius, fillet radius. So if you have sharp edge, what will happen? There will be stress that's acting in that particular sharp edge, stress concentration you will have. Instead, if you have a fillet, the stress will be less. So this basic principle is followed in design everywhere. That is followed here as well. So fillet radius you have. Then there are other names that we give. For example, this outer diameter, we also call it as addendum circle, right? This we call it as a dedendum circle, and this circle we call it as clearance circle. That is self-explanatory. If you see the sketch, you'll understand. And this portion is called face here. That is on the top near to the another gear. This is called as flank, right? So since the contact is here, the heat generator will be different in different portions, hence different names are given. This is called as flank, and this is called as face, and this is called as flank. Right. So that is about nomenclature of spur gear. Next, there is one more term that you need to know: line of action. Now you see, I'll just zoom this.
Sir, should we draw this diagram?
I'll tell you 1 second. Right now you just see the profile. Can you see it? One gear is meshing with each other. What you see here is pitch circle of one gear is meeting the pitch circle of another gear, isn't it? There's a pitch circle here, pitch circle of gear 1. There is also pitch circle of gear 2. They are meeting each other, right? They're meeting each other. They're tangent to each other, right? So that is why pitch circle is very, very important. And pitch circle is where the two gears meet, and there's something called as line of action. Now, if you consider the force acting, gear 1 will exert some force on gear 2, and hence there will be a reaction, right? And it is rotating in this direction. So line of action is nothing but the line through which the force is acting. This line of action is nothing but line through which the force is acting. There will be force exerted by gear 1 on gear 2. There will be reaction force exerted by gear 2 on gear 1. So that force will always be in this direction. We call it as line of action. A line of action passes through 3 points. It passes through base of gear 1, base of gear 2, and pitch point. And pitch. Right? It passes through 3 points. What is line of action? Line of action is the line through which the forces are acting, along which the forces are acting. It passes through 3 points. One is pitch circle, a point on the pitch circle called as pitch point, and then the base circle of gear 1 and base circle of gear 2. Right, that is called as line of action. And there is something called pressure angle. Right, the angle between line of action and this horizontal line drawn tangent to the pitch circles. We call this as pressure angle. Right. Whatever pressure or force acting one exerts on another gear is dependent on this particular angle. Right. Another thing, this is the same sketch with the one addition of line of action and pressure angle is shown here. Other things are same. Again, working depth is shown here. Tooth thickness is shown here. Right. So this is circular pitch. Right. Same thing is shown here as well. So very important here is concept of pitch, circular pitch, and the pitch circle. What is pitch circle? That is important. You can practice the sketch and be very thorough with these concepts. And then line of action you should know.
Sir?
Of course, other concepts such as addendum, redundum, etc. Yes.
Sir?
Yeah.
Can you define line of action again?
When this is rotating, when gear 1 is rotating, it exerts some force, right?
Yes, sir.
It's acting in this direction, like this, right? And this is reacting to it, so it has to be like this, right? So this line is nothing but line through which, along which the forces are acting, right?
Okay. Yes, sir.
And this line, it connects what? It connects the pitch circle, here, and then base of two different gears, this gear and this gear. If you zoom it and see, you see this, it is passing through this base circle, the circle of this gear, right, or dedendum circle, and it's also passing through dedendum of the other gear, and the third one is the pitch circle, point on the pitch circle, pitch point. Understood?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So now here for you, we will not deal with the effect of pressure angles on the torque and other things. We'll mainly focus on circular pitch and related concept, right? The syllabus that we cover in first year is very less, so you don't have to worry much about these factors, right? Whatever syllabus is there for the first year, you need to focus more on that. So nomenclature we'll see further. Circular pitch. What is circular pitch? Can you recall what I have told? It is the distance measured along the circumference of the pitch circle, or along the pitch circle, from a point of one tooth to the corresponding point on the adjacent tooth. So here pitch circle means this is pitch circle, circular pitch, from here till here, this distance that is measured horizontal. This line, length from here till here. So that is given by an equation like this. Circular pitch equals 2 pi r. What is 2 pi r? The entire circumference of the pitch circle, or pi d. D is the diameter, pitch circle diameter, divided by number of teeth. So your circular pitch is pi d. What is d? D is pitch circle diameter. T is the number of teeth. So that is called a circular pitch. It makes sense. If you go back to the sketch, you can find out. So this is circular pitch from one point on one gear tooth to the corresponding point on the next tooth. This is circular pitch. So it has to be the circumference divided by number of teeth. PC, circular pitch, is given by pi d by t. T is pitch circle diameter and t is the number of teeth. Clear? Any doubt here? So what is the main condition for two spur gears to mesh with each other? What is the condition that I mentioned? Can you tell me that?
That pitch should be the same.
Sir, yeah, the circular pitch or pitch should be same. So you can imagine what ratio we will arrive at. If you equate the circular pitch of two gears, we will arrive at, straightforward you can say, isn't it? Or d1 by d2 equals c1 by t2. We will relate this to velocity ratio in a while. Right. So you can think, if diameter increases. For example, two gears will have same pitch if they want to mesh with each other. One will be have a higher diameter than the other. So to compensate for that, the number of teeth on that will also change to keep the circular pitch constant, isn't it? Right. If one gear is bigger, then number of teeth will also be larger. If one gear is smaller, number of teeth will also be smaller to keep the pitch constant. That is the condition. So next, people also use similar terms. People also use the term called diametral pitch. Diametral pitch, people define it as PD equals T by D, number of teeth by pitch diameter. Right. Usually we use circular pitch, but there are places where we use, you can use also T by D. Even the T by D should also be same. For two gears, if they want to mesh each other, then T by D also should be same. If pi D by T has to be same, then T by D should also be same. This is called a diametral pitch. Then what will happen is, if you consider pi D by T, if you consider pi D by T, you will get, for example, in decimals, you will get in the decimals. For example, if say module, usually it is given in whole numbers like 2, 3, etc. Module is defined as ratio of pitch circle diameter by T. So it will also be in the whole numbers 1, 2, 3, 4 like this. So it's easy to design, it's easy to remember, it's easy to communicate, etc. So instead of having the circular pitch, if you have just d by t, is much easier while doing the gear calculations, gear design, and to select gears, etc. I can ask someone to give a module 2 gear. Right? You can go to shop, you can go to workshop and ask them for module 2 gear or module 3 gear instead of asking for module of say 2 point something. Right? If d by t is 2, if multiplied by pi, how much is it? 6 point something. So instead of that, if you take out that pi, if you just have d by t, it's easy for in all the cases. So you can always ask for say diameter module 2 gear or module 3 gear instead of calling for a say circular pitch of 6.3 or 4 like that. So this is more convenient. So what we can say is, if two gears want to mesh with each other, their circular pitch should be same, their diameter pitch should be same, or we can say their module has to be same. In all our calculations, design calculations, we use the term called as module. Module of two gears, if they are each are same for the same design of gear, then definitely they will mesh with each other. If module changes, then they will not mesh with each other. Right. Spur gear will only mesh with spur gear, and helical gear will only mesh with helical gears. This is also important. Any doubt here? Three things you have there: circular pitch, diametral pitch, and module. Shall we move on to the next
Sir,
slide?
2 minutes. Sir, 2 minutes.
Yeah.
2 minutes.
2 minutes.
Yes. Sir.
Yeah. D is diameter of the pitch circle. Circle diameter is called as T is number of teeth. Done?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Once again, we'll recall circular pitch is pi d by t, diametral pitch is t by d, and module is d by t. Now we will see how to define velocity ratio. We will relate velocity ratio what we have already defined with the number of teeth. So you can equate the circular pitch. You can equate the circular pitch, and we will see what happens. So let us define some terms. D1 and D2. They are pitch circle diameter of driving and driven gear. Let D1 and D2 be pitch circle diameter of driving and driven gear. We are focused on pitch circle diameter because when two gears meet each other, actually their pitch circles are meeting, right? Their outer diameter circles are not. Their inner diameter tedium circles are not. Their pitch circles are meeting with each other. Right. T1 and T2 are number of teeth on driving and driven gears, and N1 and N2 are the corresponding speeds. Right. So you have N, you have T, you have D. Right. Now what we have to assume, the main condition is that there is no any loss. There is in gear drives we don't have any slip. Right. We don't have any slip. So when there's no any slip, the linear speed of two pitch cylinders, right? The cylinder which covers the pitch circle, right? Their linear speed will be same. Or on the pitch surface, what you call as pitch surface or pitch cylinder, the linear speed should be same, right? Just like how linear speed was same on the belt drive. Similarly, if you see the pitch cylinder, right, pitch surface, right, then the linear speed should be same. The speed on any point on the pitch circle or pitch cylinder or pitch surface will be same. So you have to equate this linear speed. When you equate linear speed, what you get is see pi d1 n1 equals pi d2 n2. The linear speed equals v equals pi dn, pi dn. So pi d1 n1 equals pi d2 n2. So you get n2 by n1 equals d1 by d2. Right. So velocity ratio is defined like this. Now since circular pitch for both meshing gears are same, what you can write is pi d1 by t1 equals pi d2 by t2. Someone has not muted the mic, unmuted the mic. Please mute it. I can hear sound of papers. So pi d1 by t1 equals pi d2 by t2, which gives us an equation t1 by d2 equals t1 by t2. Or you can write n2 by n1 equals d1 by d2, that is equal to t1 by t2, isn't it? Correct? Just write down this expression. Yes. In the case of worm and foam wheel, you have seen. Yes.
Previous slide.
Yeah, I have given you sufficient time for it. Take it down. N2 by N1 equals D1 by D2 equals D1 by D2.
Equation 2, sir. Equation 2.
Yeah.
So 2 minutes.
Yeah. No, you don't write the sentences that you have to understand. Right? You just write the uh, 1-2 step derivation. It is not even a derivation. It is just expression that you get straight away.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So you have seen in worm and worm wheel, it is slightly different. Right. So in the worm and worm wheel gear, what you can write velocity ratio is speed of worm wheel by speed of worm, because it is which one is driver, which one is driven in worm and worm wheel. In worm and worm you have learned
Worm
always.
is driver and worm wheel is driven.
Yeah, it is always like that. It has got that self-interlocking capability. I have explained in the last class. You can use the worm to drive the worm wheel, but other way around you cannot because of the friction aspect. Right. So speed of worm wheel by speed of worm's velocity ratio. Right. That is equal to number of threads on the worm divided by number of teeth on the worm wheel. Number of threads means, is it a single start thread or multi-start thread? That I have explained in the last class. Right. So if you have multi-start thread, then the velocity ratio will come down. Right. It has to come down. Now let us get into concept of your multi-start or single start. So I have a sketch for you. 1 second. Can you see this sketch?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so you see here, in the case of screw threads, in the case of threads, where you have nut and bolt, Okay, you have nut and bolt. The nut. What are these? What are these profiles? What is this called as? On the bolt you have threads, and inner side of nut also you have the thread. So you have external thread and internal thread, the male and female part. So when you rotate this, when you rotate the nut by one rotation and one rotation, the linear distance that it travels, if it is same as the pitch, we call it a single thread. So the linear distance, for example, when you have seen different containers wherein the lid has got thread on its inner surface and the vessel has got thread on the outer surface. So when you rotate the lid by 360 degree, if linearly in perpendicular direction, if it travels by the distance equal to pitch, right, then we call it a single thread. When you rotate it, if the linear distance traveled, if it is double that of pitch, we call it a double thread. So see here, the distance traveled by this nut is double. Lead is not equal to pitch here. Lead is twice that of pitch. It is called as double thread. So if the lead is greater than pitch, it is called always a multi-start thread. Otherwise, it is just a single start thread. So in worm and worm wheel, what I have learned is so in a worm wheel, what I have learned is if a worm wheel has got, say for example, 100 teeth, 100 teeth, and if it is single start, then what is velocity ratio? What is velocity ratio? Velocity ratio in the case of worm wheel, it is also used for the application is reduction, right? Application is speed reduction. Right. So it is 1 by 100. So you can see here, velocity ratio is equal to number of threads on the worm divided by number of teeth on the worm wheel. It is single start thread, so number of thread is 1. Number of teeth on the worm wheel is 100. So in a worm and worm wheel, if it is single start thread, if worm is single start, and number of teeth on the worm wheel is 100, then the velocity ratio is 1 by 100. If number of if it is multi-start, if it is double start thread, two start thread, then what is the velocity ratio? It is equal to 2 by 100 or 1 by 50, 1 is to 50. Right. So the concept of velocity ratio is slightly elaborated here. It is related to number of thread on the worm and number of teeth on the worm wheel here. Right. So when you define velocity ratio for worm and worm wheel, be a little bit more careful because it is related to the concept of screw thread. Any doubt here? Any doubt? So another example is given here. Given a single start worm, a 20 teeth worm wheel reduces the speed by a ratio of 20:1. Or velocity ratio is 1 by 20. Both are same. You can either say in sentence that it reduces the speed by the ratio of 20:1, or you can say it has got velocity ratio of 1 by 20. Both are same. With spur gears, a gear of 12 teeth must match with the 240 gear teeth gear to achieve the same ratio. So you see, using worm and worm wheel, this is the same concept that I explained in the last class. If you want to achieve 1 by 10 velocity, 1 by 20 velocity ratio using a spur gear, then look into the size of spur gears that you require. Right. If one gear has got 12 teeth, the other gear should have 240 teeth in a spur gear. So see the size that it occupies. Right. So we have explained the concept of velocity ratio. We have applied it to worm and worm wheel, and with that we have also seen how compact your worm and worm wheel is when compared with the spur gear. How velocity ratio is defined in spur gear and how velocity ratio is defined here is seen here. Any doubt till now? No. Okay. You want to gear train, right? What? Yeah.
No, next slide. This side.
Yeah. Yes. I'll give an example of containers that you use to store eatables, right? Which has got thread, right? Or you have seen in vehicles also you have seen in different places these threads are there, right? Nut and bolt you have seen, so you should know what a thread is, and threads are used for tightening. You should, if you have want an airtight joint, if you do leak proof joint, if you want, if you have thread, then it will be very tight. With the thread, what you can have is you can tighten it, you can have a leak-proof joint, and also you can disassemble it. Right? It is a type of fastener in the mechanical engineering. Right? Yes. So gear train. Gear train means, simply put, you will have just two gears, isn't it? We have explained till now. For example, if it is spur gear, you will have two gears. One is driver, one is driven. One is driver, another is driven. So you have the shaft of motor here, and shaft of driven gear here. So this is the center distance that is defined, that is predefined. Right? So you can have driver and driven gear that closes this particular space. Right? Fine. Now if center distance is more, center distance is higher, and you require the same velocity ratio. You require same velocity ratio as this. Can you have a larger diameter gear? If you do that, what will happen? Velocity ratio will change. So what to do in between? You should have what? Can you have the same
Stationary gear.
you need to have not stationary, they will also move, but they will not have any effect on the velocity ratio. You need to use other gears to fill the space between driver and driven, so that those intermediate gears have no effect on the velocity ratio. So if the center distance is larger, and if you want to maintain the same velocity ratio as the case 1 here, then you need to have intermediate gears. This intermediate gear should not have any effect on the velocity ratio. Okay. So when you have multiple gears, when you have many intermediate gears more than the driver and driven, we call the entire thing as a gear train. The gearbox is an example of compound gear train. It is a type of gear train, that gearbox that you have in your automobile, or the gears that we have, set of gears that we have in different machines. They're all gear trains. If more than two, driver and driven, if you have gears meshing with each other, one gear meshes, first gear meshes with the second gear meshes with the third gear, and so on, like a bogies in a train, right? We call it as gear train. So there are different types of gear trains used for different purposes. We will see what are they. You can see a sketch of gear train is given here. You can see the shaft, and on the shaft you can see many number of gears. So two types of gear trains are there: simple gear train and compound gear train. Let us see what a simple gear train is. We'll start with the sketch. Right. With the sketch you'll understand. Please make a note of the sketch. Take the sketch down. So can you explain with the sketch itself, by looking into the sketch, what is simple gear train? Features of simple gear train is that you have a driver and a driven gear, right? Between the
So can you show the previous slide for a second?
you have only one gear. On a single shaft, you have only one gear. We call it a simple gear train. We'll go to prove that the intermediate gear train will have no effect on the velocity ratio, and these gears are used just to fill the space. We'll prove this. So you can see on shaft 1 there is a gear 1. It has got 80 teeth. On gear 2 there are 40 teeth, and on gear 3 there is 60 teeth, right? So depending upon the space, different gears are selected as intermediate gears, gears of different diameters, right? And on the last one, on the last shaft, you have gear 4, 20 teeth. Now gears are available in different standard sizes. You cannot have say 40, 60, 100. You could have gone for same diameter gears, right? So there are some, you need to look into the list of type of gears that you get in the market. Standard gears are available, only that you can use. If you want to have a custom gear, then you need to manufacture yourself. Right? So if you go to our machine shop, when you do some operations using milling machine, you need to change the velocity ratio there in the machine. So you'll have to change the velocity ratio by using different set of gears. Right. So there you will use only the gears that is available. There are standard gear that are available. For example, threads, if you take, as per you wish, you cannot have different pitches. Whatever standard pitches are available in the market, only that you can use. Similarly, gears also. Right. If you want to have custom one, then you need to manufacture yourself. So this is how it looks from one view. In one view, if you see, The simple gear train looks like this. If you want to draw the top view, you can draw like this. Please make a note of this particular sketch, very important. On each gear, 2 circles are shown. Why? Can you tell me why? One is the outer diameter of the gear, another one is pitch circle. You can see pitch circles are meeting, isn't it? See here, the pitch circles are meeting actually. Here also, pitch circles are meeting, even here. So you can just to draw pitch circles, and then what you can you can write that the pitch circle of the gears are mentioned in the sketch. You don't have to draw 2 circles here, right? You can just to draw. I will show it in the next slide. You can just to draw 1 circle for 1 gear, and mention that you have what you have drawn is pitch circle. Ready? Just like how I have drawn, you can just draw 1 circle for each gear. This circle you should know that it is pitch circle. If you draw outer diameter, then slightly it gets complicated. You have to draw one outer diameter for this, and outer diameter for this as well. Instead of that, you can just draw 1 circle for each gear, and that circle represents the gear or it represents the pitch circle. Have you taken down the sketch?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Done? Yes, sir.
Done. Done.
Okay.
Done.
Yeah. So you see at this sketch, you see the blue circle is nothing but the outer diameter, the one that is shown inside with the dotted lines, like axis lines. How that is shown here, right? This one, this circle we call it as pitch circle. So pitch circle is meeting each other, 2 gears. See here, you can see here, this is the point where they meet. So this is pitch circle. So in a simple gear train, consider the first gear. First gear is rotating in clockwise direction. So second gear will rotate in anti-clockwise. Third gear, gear C, will rotate in clockwise, and gear D will rotate in anti-clockwise or counterclockwise direction. So the driven gear is gear D here, driver gear is gear A. If gear A is rotating in clockwise direction, then gear D will rotate in counterclockwise direction, because the number of intermediate gears here is even. If you have odd number of gears, then what will happen to the sense of rotation of driven gear? It will
Same
be
direction.
same as that of driver gear. So this is the concept of simple gear train. And the intermediate gears are just used here to fill up the space or to change the rotation, sense of rotation of driven gear. But they don't have any effect on the velocity ratio. Right? In a 1 or 2 slides, we'll prove that. So before proving that, we have to define certain things. In this particular sketch, A is driving gear, B and C are intermediate gear, and D is driven gear. Is this clear? How many
Yes, sir.
gears are there? How many gears are there in the sketch?
4.
4. How many shafts are there?
4.
4. Okay, 4. That you must remember. On each shaft we have 1 gear each. Right. So what are N and T? What are N and T? They are RPM and rotations per minute of each gears and number of teeth. You have NAT A for A, NBTB for B, and so on. Right. So now let us derive the equation. First, let us consider A and B. Focus here. Consider A and B. If you consider like a free body diagram, you just consider just A and B. So which is driver, which is driven?
A is driver, B is driven.
So how do we, what is the velocity ratio here for A and B?
NA by NB equal to
No.
TB
Driven.
by TA.
Speed of driven by driver. NB by NA. Velocity ratio is defined as speed of driven or RPM of driven by driver, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
So NB by NA equals what?
TA by TB.
Yeah. Yes. So if A drives B, then NB by NA equals TA by TB. We have one equation. Next, let us consider now not A, we'll consider B and C. We'll consider B and C. So in that, how to write the equation? B drives C. Now B is the driver, C is the driven. If you consider only B and C. So NC by NB equals TB by TC. Clear? Right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Finally, if you consider only C and D, if you consider only C and D, this and this, ND by NC equals TC by TD. Right. So these three velocity ratio equations we have with this. Now let us define velocity ratio of the gear train. What is the velocity ratio of the gear train? Which is the driver in the main gear train? There's a shaft connected here. There's a shaft connected here. Right. So this is driver. This is driver. This is driven. Isn't it? So main velocity ratio is what? ND by NA, isn't it? Velocity ratio of gear train is ND by NA. You have to derive equation for this. How to do that? Let us see. A small adjustment to the equation, rearranging of terms we need to do. So velocity ratio is given by ND by NA. That we can write like this. ND by NA you can write that is equal to, so this I can cancel, this also can be cancelled. So ND by NA you have. Small adjustment to this equation will give you this. We can write it like this or not?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So what is ND by NC?
TC by TD.
ND by NC is TC by TD. NC by NB is TB by TC. NB by NA is TA by TB. So this I can cancel. This I can cancel. What is remaining?
TA by TD.
TA by TD. So what you can write is ND by NA is equals TA by TD. So velocity ratio of the gear train ND by NA it is equal to TA by TD. What is the meaning?
Intermediate gears have no effect.
Intermediate gears have no effect on the velocity ratio. Right. As long as size of gear, driver gear and driven gear are same, whatever number of intermediate gears you have, the velocity ratio is going to remain the same. Only thing is that center distance will change, sense of rotation of driven gear will change. That's all. Velocity ratio will remain the same. Correct? That is that we have proved that thing here with this derivation. So you make a note of this particular derivation. I will take you to the previous slide. This starts here. So you draw this sketch and write these equations. Then tell me. I'll move on to the next slide. Make a note of this. This is a derivation for velocity ratio of simple gear train. You write the heading as velocity ratio of simple gear train, and you write down these equations. Should I move to the next slide? Hello.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Write down this. Sketch is not required. Already is you have drawn. Only the equation, the derivation you will write. Nd by Na equals Nd by Nc into Nc by Nb into Nb by Na. All these things. Any doubt here? Any doubt till now? Is there any doubt in the portion that I covered till now?
No, sir.
Okay. Can I move on to the next slide?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Done? Okay. So next, let us see what a compound gear train is. Right. So the term itself will say that you're compounding one over the other. Right. Or on a single shaft, you will have multiple gears. You have two gears. Right. And this is a way of getting higher velocity ratio within a smaller space. Right. In very small space, you can have a very high velocity ratio compared to simple gear train. How to do that, we will see. So when a large velocity ratio is required, you can use compound gear train. So let us see the sketch. So only the driver and driven shaft will have one gear. Only the driver and driven will have one gear. The intermediate gears or the intermediate shafts will have multiple gears. Right? So this gear C here. Gear C is intermediate gear. and the shaft here has two gears, gear B and gear C. A is meshing with B, A is meshing with B, and C is meshing with D. Right, the two gears on the intermediate shaft, that is B and C, both are meshing, but B is meshing with A and C is meshing with D. So there are three shafts and there are four gears, and if you consider there are only two pairs of meshing gears, A, B and C, D. Right. With such an arrangement, you can achieve large velocity ratio. We call such a gear train as compound gear train. Understood? So what is a compound gear train? So compound gear train is an arrangement of gear train wherein on intermediate shafts you have more than one gear, right? And with this you can achieve very large velocity ratio. One example is given here. This is in one of the machine tools in lathe, for example. So you can see on a single shaft, there are multiple gears. Two gears are there here, right? So this gear meshes with this gear, whereas this gear meshes with this. It also meshes with the gear on another shaft, right? So in a small arrangement, in a small space, if you consider two gears, one as driver and another as driven, you will be able to get very large velocity ratio. That is the concept. Right. So you can write the sketch either like this, by drawing pitch circles, or you can draw the top view. So if you see the top view, you will understand. On a single shaft, you have two gears. This is one intermediate shaft. This is another intermediate shaft. On each shaft, you have two gears. Only in driver shaft and driven shaft, you have just one gear. There's no point in having multiple gears here in the driver shaft and driven shaft. So in driver and driven shaft, you have only two gears. That is driver gear and driven gear. On all intermediate shafts, you have two gears. Right. A is meshing with B and C is meshing with D, and so on. Depending on number of intermediate shafts, this will continue. You can draw as many number of intermediate gears as you want. When you're asked an example of compound gear train, you can just draw a simple sketch like this, or you can draw as much as you want. But only thing is that the concept can be explained with just three shafts. Concept of compound gear train can just be explained with three shafts, just like it is shown here. Any doubt till here? Clear what is a compound gear train?
Yes,
Now here the concept is, if intermediate gears doesn't have any effect, then velocity ratio will not change. We want to get the effect of intermediate gears so that velocity ratio you can increase it in multitude. Right. So people have found out that when you have multiple gears in the intermediate shaft, there is effect of intermediate gears on the velocity ratio, because of which the gear ratio, velocity ratio that you get here is different from velocity ratio of simple gear train. That we will prove. So similar to simple gear train, sketch it on here as well. Right, you know what is NA, what is N, and what is T. So you take this particular sketch. So here, gear A is meshing with which gear? Gear B. Right. Gear C is meshing with gear D. Gear A is driver and gear D is driven.
Previous slide.
Same sketch shown in previous slide. Nothing else.
They're compound gear.
Compound gear only. This is also compound gear train. Same sketch. I'm explaining the same concept, right? Here we will have the equations also parallel. Now let us write the velocity ratio for A and B. If gear A drives B, how can I write? NB by NA equals TA by TB. Gear C is driving D. Here you see gear C is driving gear D. So write velocity ratio for that as well. Now before that, what you can see here is what is the speed of B and C? For example, let us assume gear A is rotating at 1000 RPM. If gear B is double that of gear A, what should be the speed of gear B?
2000 RPM.
No, double. Gear B is double of gear A. Then the speed should reduce, right?
Yes, sir.
So 500. So if gear B rotates at 500 RPM, then gear C should also rotate at the same speed, isn't it? Why? Because they are keyed onto the same shaft. Is this clear? So first here A is driving B, isn't it? So if this is driver, A is driving B. And depending on the speed of B, gear C also is rotating at the same speed. So since B and C are keyed to the same shaft, NB by NC, NB equals NC. Is this clear? Hello?
Yes, sir, it's clear.
Do you agree with me that NB equals NC?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Okay. But the number of teeth, they are not same. Because of this, you will get different velocity ratio. Let us see how. Now C drives D, isn't it? C drives D. So ND by NC equals TC by TD. Yes or no? Hello? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so if you multiply 1 and 2, what you will get? You just see to do that. Multiply 1 and 2, what do you get? NB equals NC, so that they will get cancelled. So what is remaining?
Sir, sir, ND by NA is equal to TA by TD.
Yeah, so NB by NA, if you multiply 1 and 2, NB by NA into ND by NC, ND by NC. NB and NC are same, right? Right. So you have ND by NA equals what?
TA into TC by TB into TD.
Or you can write TA by TB into TC by TD. What does this mean? This means that intermediate gears, the number of teeth on intermediate gears or the diameter of intermediate gears, they have effect on the velocity ratio of the gear train. Right. So if you can have different, since you have control over number of teeth on intermediate gears, you have control over the velocity ratio. Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So by having, for example, let us take this ratio. If it is just a simple gear train, what do you have? ND by NA equals only this, right? See the velocity ratio, ND by N. Yeah, I will let me finish explaining. I will give you time. So ND by NA in simple gear train, it is just TC by TD. So if this ratio, if it is
Isn't TA by TD? Like in a simple.
one second. Sorry. See ND by NA in simple gear train, how do you write? TA by TD. Right. Let me just erase this. TA by TD, right? So now if we consider just A and if you consider B and C in series, B and C in series, and if you consider TA by TD, now here in sketch you can see that D is bigger than A. So number of teeth here if it is 30 and here if it is 60, then for a simple gate train, if B and C were in series, what would have been the velocity ratio? ND by N equals TA by TD. Tell me, 30 by
1 by 2.
60, that is 1 by 2. Isn't it? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, now let us do some changes. You give the values of C, consider the case of compound gate train. You give me the values for B and C depending upon the relative size. Right. Let me erase it first. So TC for TC, where is TC? Yeah. Say TC has 40 number of teeth. This TD is slightly bigger, no? Let it be 60. And TA 30. TB looks the
80.
bigger one, biggest 70. So what is the velocity ratio here?
Sir,
2 by 7.
7, sir.
Much is it?
2 upon 7, sir.
2 upon 7. So what you can see here is this gate train, what we will solve problems, you will understand it further. Gate trains, you can use it for compound gate train, you can use it for speed reduction or speed increase, right? But right now 0.28, is it resulting in speed reduction or speed increase? 1 by 2 means what? In the case of simple gate train, if it is 1 by 2, what does that mean? In simple gate train, you had a reduction of velocity ratio of 0.5. Right? Is it speed reduction? ND by NA equals 0.5 means?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Isn't it? If NA is rotating at 1000, ND will rotate at 500 RPM in the case of simple gate train. Right? Now, for the same size of gate A and gate D, with the compound gate and train setup, we are getting a ratio of 0.3. Right. So what has happened to the speed of D? What has happened to the speed of D?
It has reduced even more.
Reduce further, which means that with the same set of driver and driven, by changing the size of intermediate gears, you can go to both extremes. Either you can have, in the case of speed reduction, you can have further lesser speed reduction ratio, or in the case of if it is speed increase, right, you can have much higher increase in speed of the driven. So whether to increase the speed of driven or decrease the speed of driven, you can do to a larger extent, maximum extent, with the compound gate train. So don't be of the impression that compound gate train is just used to increase velocity ratio. No, it can be used to increase the velocity ratio or decrease the velocity ratio. Right. So either to maximize velocity ratio or minimize velocity ratio, it can be used. It can go to two different extents, more than what a simple gate train can do. Right, because we will be able to control we'll be able to select intermediate gears of different number of teeth, and that will have effect on the velocity ratio. Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes. So in this example, what I have given, I have shown you how in compound gate train we have minimized actually the speed of gear D compared to simple gear train. In simple gear train, if speed of gear D was 500. Here with compound gear train, we have got it equal to some 300 RPM. All right, so you can think how the velocity ratio we have reduced more further using a compound gear train. So what we can write here is velocity ratio is product of number of teeth of driving gears divided by product of number of teeth of driven gears. Which are the driving gears here? C
A
and
and C.
Yeah, A and C are driving gears, and D and B are the driven gears. You can write it like that also. So we make a note of this. I will start from the previous slide. This is the sketch derivation. Draw the sketch and the derivation as well. Yeah, you write down this. Is this done? The slide is done. Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So this is the last slide. You take this down. No need to take the sketch again. Just write the velocity ratio equation. If you are done with this, if you don't have any doubt, you can leave. If you have any doubt, you can ask. You're done for the day.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. The doubts, yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Don't
Sir,
have doubt. Yeah.
Thank
sir, can we use this system to run multiple driven gears using one driver gear?
Yes, of course. I have shown example of machine tool, right? It is done. Depends upon the purpose application.
Understood, sir.
Yeah. The machine tool application I have shown. You can just once if you are in Manipal, you can go visit our workshop and see the gearbox of lathe machine tool. How a compound gear train used in application.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
So this is done. Okay.
So can we leave, sir?
Yeah,
Thank you, sir.
yeah, welcome. I'll end the meeting.
Thank you, sir.